talk shows live. Find your own voice, lead from within. With me today is Carol Ann Cooper. Carol Ann, please introduce yourself to our audience.
Yes, thank you, Nomsa, and good afternoon from London, UK. And as the writing facilitator, what I do is I support women in becoming more productive with their writing by connecting them with their deeper innate ability to write. But more importantly, they experience free-flowing writing. They experience an unlocking of the writer within and getting their story written, getting their book written, because you cannot publish what isn't written. And all of this has come about through my own journey of unlocking the writer within.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Carol Ann. So our today is how to improve communications. And communications today is very, very, very important both in business and personal. So, Carol Ann, you've chosen this topic. Can you explain to our audience why you chose this topic, please?
Yeah, because it's communication. It makes or breaks your business. It actually can block you moving forward. It can stop you, or it can actually springboard you forward in your dreams and in your goals. And so being able to understand how you're communicating, what you're communicating, and how you can improve that is really key to actually how you connect with others and how you can actually improve things in your life and in your business. Communication is actually how we express thoughts, feelings, and ideas. And it's not just communication with other people, it's communication with yourself as well. So there's two aspects of this to think about. So I just thought it might be an interesting topic to explore. And I'm curious as to what had you put in there also, what is the mindset of a coach? Where did that spring into this?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Carol Anna. Yes, yesterday we were talking about the mindset of a coach, and today is all communication. Everything is linked together because when you communicate, basically you have to connect with those you are communicating with in business and personal. And also you have to have listening skills as well to be able to listen to somebody what they're saying and without being judgmental, because some people we live in a very very judgmental world. And for me, basically, I always hear people, they will be wondering in the background what is going on in this person's life and that person's life. So I'm like, if you are really really eager to know, why don't you just ask? If you are concerned, why don't you just ask questions? And when you ask questions, you'll be able to get the answers that you are looking for instead of wondering. It's the same with business. You cannot assume that you understand. I had a client last week, this week actually, and I've never worked with what she was requesting. I've never come across with. So I said to her, because we collaborate as matchmakers, so I said to her, I I don't think I can put you in my books, knowing that I cannot help you, but I can ask somebody else to actually help you, because if I say I'm going to help you, that means that you're gonna have to change what you want, your desires. But in for you to be able to be you and do the things that you want to do, and become the person that you want to be, you're gonna have to go to somebody that can help you, so you don't have to hide who you are. And uh, and she was like, oh yeah, that's okay. And this person, matchmaking basically is very very expensive. So for me, women join for free. So if she goes to her, that means that she can register, and her profile will be passed in different people just for free. And but she agreed because I had to explain, I had to be honest with her. At the same time, it was up to her whether how she receives the message, because I could have simply lied to her, but I couldn't lie to her and I couldn't judge her either. So it's very, very important what you are saying, Carol, and that basically businesses, when we communicate with people, we are communicating our thoughts, we are communicating how we feel. And at the same time, it's very, very important for your values and business cultures as well. Culture as well is very, very important. For me, basically, if I can't help a client, I can't lie to them. I have to be upfront with them because it does help me and I have to seek help. So I said to her, listen, I'm going to pass your details to somebody who can help you. It will be up to them whether they want to help you or not. So actually, the woman, she was really nice and she gave her a call and she explained to her that even in her end, other end is gonna be there's gonna be limitation with what she wants and her age as well. So she was like, but I can cut, I can help you this way. So she was trying to work around her to help her. So to me, basically, communication is very, very important. Over to you, Carol Ann.
Mm. It is, yeah, because actually the only way you can help somebody is to really understand what it is they're wanting.
Yeah,
And as you said, the key there is listening. And listening is the number one skill when in communication. Actually hearing what the other person is saying. And it's more than just hearing, because you can hear it. You can hear all the time. It's a very passive activity, is hearing. Listening is the one that has the action to it, because you're not just hearing it, you are taking in what they've said, you're thinking about the words that they've used, and you're making sure you've understood what they've said, and maybe asking questions to actually clarify the understanding, rather than being in your own head thinking, oh, well, I could say this or I could say that, or you're already formulating an answer. Listening is really being present to the other person. And it's also about hearing and listening for what isn't actually being said. Because sometimes people are not that experienced at really saying what it is they want. And so the key there in listening is being able to ask questions to draw out from the other person. So you really get an understanding of their world. And it's about listening to their words. What words are they using? And then use their words back to them, because then they'll feel heard and understood. And I remember when people started doing that with me, it was like, wow, this person's really listening to me because they're using my words. They weren't trying to say to me, oh, well, you mean this or you mean that. And they would put their own word in it, because that used to irritate me. Now I can actually go, well, no, that's not my word, but I will understand, I will have a conversation with them and understand where they're coming from. Because actually, when somebody attempts to use their word, they're attempting to understand rather than maybe put words in your mouth. But what I will do is actually say, well, no, this is my word. For me, this is what I mean. Because you can be really precise with words. Different words have got slightly different meanings, different energies. And so it is really being clear on your words, but also allowing someone else to attempt to understand by using their word and get to understand where they're coming from. And it is that listening and being present to somebody and just allowing the conversation to flow, and before you sort of respond or come back to someone else. I remember an activity we did when in one of my NLP trainings that really brought it home to me, about listening. And what we had to do was, we were in pairs, and you'd be talking and the other person would be actively listening, so engaged in looking at you and listening. And then at one point they would literally switch off their attention, look away, and not be listening. And for me, I was aware of that moment that it happened, because for me it was like this knife that cut through the energy and literally stopped me being able to find my words. The flow just stopped. I was like, what happened there? So it was quite, for me, quite an energetic, impactful experience that helped me to realize the difference between being listened to and not being listened to. And so I'm now aware when I'm losing my words, I'm aware that the other person actually isn't with me. They're up in their head, attempting to find an answer or to interject. And I can feel my breath go, and I'm hesitant and I can't find my words. And I've learnt to sort of be with that now and let them have their say and then bring that back to conversation, or even say something. There are times now where I will say something and say, look, this doesn't work for me because I cannot find my words. What I'm experiencing is you're attempting to say something before I've even finished, and I can't work with that. And all of a sudden, that person will listen, and it's the whole conversation changes, and there is a listening that happens, and there's an energy shift. There's a quieting down of everything, and I can find my words. It really is remarkable. So, as you say, Nomsa, it's also about telling your truth. Because if you're not authentic, you're not saying what is true for you, you're not helping the other person. And so, yes, if you're not able to help that person, being truthful is the best thing to do. But it is also not about just sending them on their merry way. I love the fact that you've sent them to somebody else. You've made a suggestion of someone else that maybe they could try, which then allows them to move forward with their quest of what it is they're wanting to achieve. So I love that. So certainly listening is a key skill that to work on to improve your communication. And it is something that I've been working on for years now, is my auditory processing, so that I can really hear and be with what someone else is saying, and be able to let my words flow when I need to. So yeah, listening. Listening is the active part. We hear all the time.
Yeah.
We're always hearing. We cannot not hear, but because your ears are hearing the sounds, but it's when you become present to them. That's listening. It's like, oh yeah, that's a bird I'm hearing singing up there.
Yeah.
You suddenly you are now listening. It becomes an active action rather than just that passive. Well, you're hearing it, but you're not acknowledging it. So that is a skill that a lot of people don't have, and I'm really aware of when people aren't listening. I sit there going, okay, you're
Yeah.
not really listening.
Yeah, it's like most of the sales people, I see people that are selling something. They tell you they'll call you, and you're like, okay, I'm at work, I'm busy, and they're like telling you their product, and you're like, you've not listened to what I just said,
Yeah.
and they're like, they'll
Uh,
be like, so when are you free? And then you'll be like, I'll be like, um, if I'm free, I'm free, but are you gonna listen to me then when you call me? And
mm,
sometimes if they don't really listen, it's like they're away or else just listen to what
mm,
I'm selling or else. Or sometimes they'll try to convince you, and I'm like, but you found my mobile phone and you are ringing me on my phone and you are not listening to my needs, so how can I work with you if you are actually not listening to my needs? So I don't know whether it's the secret for salesmen, but you find some people that it really they'll call you, and if you let them know that you are busy, and you find that you find yourself making time and arranging to speak to them, even if you're not gonna buy their product, because they're listening to you and they're
mm,
being nice to you. So it's very important to have communication communication skills and listening skills, because it will help you to build a very meaningful relationship in business and personal your personal life. And it will also help you to be able to serve someone, because when you listen to someone, you understand their needs, their desires, and how you can help them yourself, and also and save them. You can't save me if you don't understand my needs. So that's where I see it, that basically it is very important, Kero. And like what you are saying now, basically you have to understand the person. You have to basically like what you're saying, listening and listening to their words as well. It is very important, because the words basically they are coming from the thoughts for what that person is thinking. And so instead of making your own judgment and your own assumptions, basically to stop and say, okay, I'm going to listen and I'm going to focus to what you're saying. And I just give that person attention. And I had a client the other day, and she was like, can I come and see you? I said to her, no, you can't come and see me, because you have to fill out the application form first, and the application form has to be assessed. And she was like, I'm trying to fill the application form, but it's not going through. So I realized that she's not really a techie person. So I said to her, why don't you fill everything on the application form, take pictures, and send it to me on WhatsApp, and then I will fill out the application form for you. So she did that. She filled the application form and took all the pictures, the information that she filled in, and then send it to me on WhatsApp. So I went within few minutes. The application form was sent, and she sent me the pictures to attach. So I did the application form for her. So I said to her, the process that you want to come and see me, it's not going to work, because I need to see what you do, whether basically your profile meets our requirements before you can come and see me. So we did the application. I did the application for her, because I did understand what she was going through, and the frustration she was going through, the frustration of not knowing. She was feeling everything, but I think she was leaving one field, because when you leave one field not filled up, basically the application doesn't go through. So I said to her, I stayed on the other end of the phone, and she was like, are you going to stay here until I finish? I was like, I'm not doing anything. I'm just spending time with the kids. So, yeah, you put the phone on the side. And when you finish, if you need me, just let me know. And she filled in her application form, and she took pictures and sent it to me. So I had to use my time because sometimes when you are doing an application, if it was an application for something, I would say ask somebody else to help you. but application for dating is more personal. No, some people don't want people knowing their business. So I had to think quickly, how can I help this person? So in the end, we solved the problem just between us, which is good. Sometimes you have a problem and you try to explain to people that this is the problem that I'm having. Can you please help me? And people will be like, no, because they don't understand your language.
Yeah, that's the key there. They don't understand your language. And I
Yeah,
love what Emma Thompson says actually. Any problem, big or small, within a family always seems to start with bad communication. Someone isn't listening.
yeah,
It comes back to that. But it is to understand the other person so that you can then support them. And it is giving them the time. So I love that you gave her that time to be able to go away, fill in that form,
yeah,
and then come back, having filled it in, and then you could move forward. Because sometimes if you're attempting to rush somebody, it creates stress, and then communication breaks down in that way as well, because that person isn't able to really, and it's like they lose what it is they want to say, and they feel that someone's not there for them. It
yeah,
just, again, that creates tension and a barrier to communicating. Um, and there was something, oh yeah, when you were saying about that salesman on the phone, I think this is something that if you are that salesman or you are a salesperson and somebody says to you, I don't have time right now, there's a great question that you could come back, really hear what that person said, listen to it, and say, okay, so when would be a good time to have a call? That immediately shows you've heard them and that you are willing to fit them in when it suits them. So really listen to what someone is saying. Because if you do attempt to keep plowing forward, you've lost that person. They don't want to speak with you. They'll never come back to you. They won't even take your calls. So do recognize that, because there is nothing more frustrating than someone that's not listening to you. And I know I've heard my daughter a few years ago when she was on the phone attempting to sort things out with her phone many times with the phone company she was with. And it was like, they're just not listening. They come back with a question and say something. And she said, Mum, they're just not listening. It's so annoying. And then they wonder why they lose customers. So, yeah, so do think on if you are somebody who's working for a company and a customer service, or you're wanting to sell, listen to that customer. How can you serve them best is by listening to them, get to understand their world. And something, if you're actually in person with somebody, so it's not just necessarily on the phone, if you're in person with somebody, there's also body language. Be aware of your body language. Be aware of their body language. Because if they've got their arms crossed, there's a block there. If you've got your arms crossed, there's a block of communication. But if they are blocking, what you can do is mirror them, because use the same body language. So if they've got their arms crossed, okay, cross your arms, or just cross your legs. Notice whether their legs are open or they're crossed. Little things like that is a non-verbal communication. And so be aware of how that other person is sitting or moving. Little things like that. And you can notice if the conversation isn't flowing, have a look and see how that person is sitting. Notice their legs and their feet. Are they crossed or not? And if they're crossed and you're not, cross your ankles. Notice what happens to the conversation. It's amazing how it can start flowing again. And so again, it's noticing. Notice how the other person is maybe sitting or just holding themselves. Okay, but be aware of your own body language. And eye contact. Are you actually looking at them or are you looking away? Look at somebody and then look away. What can you feel that difference? Are you aware of me when I'm looking here? I'm looking at you, I'm listening. I'm looking over there. Am I? Does it feel like I'm really listening to you? So again, be aware of yourself. Are you looking down? Are you looking at them? Taking in, are you being attentive? Okay. But also be aware that if it's a person that's maybe they're not looking at you, they sort of look away, maybe they're not comfortable with that eye contact. So occasionally just look away, be aware of how they're feeling. And if they're not comfortable, they look away, then you look away, but then look back again. But just have that empathy with them, that feeling, that knowing, so you can connect. And it's just subtle, just little things, but it's being with them in a non-verbal way will also improve your communication. And what do you hear there, Nomsa? Are you good at noticing
Body
how people
language.
are with their
Yeah.
non-verbal?
Oh, yes, it is very, very important what you're saying, Kiro, on verbal communication and body language. It is very, very, very important because when you actually communicate with someone, you want to know that this person can hear you and they hear what you're saying and they understand your feelings because that is very, very important. You can't help me if you don't understand what I'm feeling. If you don't get me, you cannot save me. It's like I have my kids. I've taught my kids basically to communicate with me if I basically told them to challenge me. If they feel that I'm not basically, I don't understand them, they'll be like, no, mommy, we want you to listen. So I'm like, okay, listening, and they'll be like putting their messages across, and sometimes they're trying it on and you could see that they're trying on. I'm like, no, this is not working, girls, try something else. So but it helps them to actually go out there and it prepares them to the world, because the world that we see, what you see in the world is how you're going to communicate it. If you see the world as the world is not a good place, then that's your feelings. So you have to communicate. So I teach them to say, listen, girls, when you go out and you have friends, and you have to be able to be you and not doing things that you know that basically you're trying to fit in. And when you communicate your feelings, and people will be able to understand that, oh, this is the person, this is the person. It's like with my family, I communicate with them and I tell them this is who I am, and I'm not going to try to be something that I'm not. And they know that. And my mom, when she's wanting to do something, and she'll be like, I have to ask first. She'll be like, I had to ask first, Nomsa, before I do anything. So I'm like, yes, what do you want to ask? And then she'll be asking me. So it's very, very important. And communications, it helps you to make decisions. It helps quick decisions. It helps you to solve problems as well. Because if you are someone with good communications, you'll be able to pick up the phone when the problem is rising, instead of assuming. Some people, they assume the worst where there is no worst. They assume, they make assumptions about people's feelings, and they just assume. And me, when I go home, no one gossip when I'm around. I went home once, and my uncle was working long hours. All of a sudden, he started working long hours, and my his daughter and my mom, they are busy talking, and his daughter is like, why is he working long hours now? All of a sudden, my mom is pointing at me, so I got that she's talking about me. She's trying to give you an eye. Don't say anything in front of Nomsa.
Oh,
Don't say anything in front of Nobsa. So
yeah.
I'm like, if you guys are wondering why Uncle is working long hours, why don't you ask him? Because you're all sitting here wondering. So then he walks in. So I was like, Uncle, your daughter and my mom, they're wondering why you're working long hours. Are you having an affair? Or are you busy at work? Can you explain to them? Because they are really, really worried what is going on. So he had to
Uh,
explain that he's working long hours because they are very, very busy at work. So
mm,
he has to put on long hours, and he wants overtime to be paid as well. So he had to explain. And here's my family, they are sitting there and they are wondering, and I could see my mom trying to tell my uncle's daughter, like, shh, shoo, 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 shoo.
yeah.
uh, so I was like, yeah, you don't have to wonder, sit there wondering what people get up to. If you really, really want to know what I get up to, come and ask me. I will let you know instead of wondering. And also, it's nice. It shows that people care. But people don't understand that when they are wondering or they are worried about something and they ask you, it shows that, for me, basically, it shows me that you care about me. And that's why you want to know that I'm safe, I'm okay. So it's like, and and my mom was like, I was like, if you guys want to know whether, because the next thing will be a gossip and it will be a big thing, you go to his wife, and marriage, there will be conflict, marriage will be destroyed. So I was like, ask the
Mm,
person, he's a manufacturer, he knows what's going on. So ask him. It's like with the business. If somebody wants to ask how the business work, it's best to basically to have clarity, ask questions. If
mm,
you basically want to buy products, ask questions. And the other person at the other end, they should be able to answer those questions, to clarify to you that yes, this product is safe for you to buy it. Yes, this product is okay. If they are defensive and they don't want you to ask the questions, that means there is something behind. So it's very, very important for somebody to be able to basically to ask those questions. And it also gives somebody that freedom. It gives them that security to say, okay, I'm safe, I'm in good hands. And when somebody feels safe to be with you, and they'll be able to refer you to other people. And this woman that I was talking to over the phone, that was struggling, I could have easily said to her, listen, I'm very, very busy, I don't have time for you. And it turns out that somebody recommended them to me, that Nomsa will be able to help you. She's very nice. And whoever sent them said nice things about me. So I didn't know all those things. Yes, me, like I'm talking to her, like, okay, let's not waste time on the phone, or you come and see me and you're not a good fit. Why you need to do, just do this and send it over to me. I'll fill out the application form. So sometimes the bad communication can cause conflict. And it's good to connect with people and have a really, really understanding, like what you were saying, Carol Ann, about their world. Tony Robbins says if you enter a relationship, you have to get to know someone in their world. For me, basically, I think it's very, very, very important that, like, sometimes when I ask you something, you always say, Nomsa, what do you think that, like, within you, that is making this person behave the way they are behaving and things like that? I was when we were talking about the house the other day, you asked me to focus on this and focus on that, and I did all that. And then I made a phone call to this guy and trying to find out the signature of the house, and he was like, "This has gone on too long." It has gone on too long. I don't know why these people are
Yeah.
not responding to me. And he said they have not responding to his end because they need to service everything. So I was like, oh, it has gone on too long. So the signature, they need to send the papers for your signature. So and then it was like I would chase them up, and I didn't actually say anything to him. It was him telling me that it's gone on too long. And when he's looking at it, how far it was like 6 weeks. It's been 6 weeks. That's too
Gosh.
long. So is it does help when you connect with people and showing people that I care. I hear you. Like before you mentioned that being able to hear someone when they're speaking to you is very, very, very important. And it will help you to connect with people business, even at home. It's like at home, me at home, people call me nosy. They like, Nomsa, you are nosy. Why do you want to know? I'm like, I have to ask. There is no point in me wondering whether my spouse
Mm,
is getting up to this. Sometimes you hear people, they'll go on holiday, their spouse will go on business trip, and they're like, he's not been answering or she's not been answering her call. I wonder what is going on. But when he does answer the call, they don't ask about why have you been quiet. So for me, I ask those questions.
yeah,
I
yeah.
really, really ask. And my spouse goes, Nomsa, you are so nosy. I'm like, yes, I've got to know.
Yeah.
I've got to ask. If I don't
Yeah.
ask, I'm never gonna know, and I'm just gonna be
Mm,
stressing myself. So sometimes it's best to ask. I know that I'm not perfect and I know that I make mistakes, but it is better that I ask if someone is happy or
mm,
or sometimes you find people they come for business, they want to register with the matchmaking and they don't. And you call them and you're like, oh, you never came back, and they're like I'll be assuming the worst that maybe my business is not right. If you don't ask, you'll be assuming the worst. But then when you do ring someone, they tell you, actually, I'm going through tough times. That's
mm,
why I've not been able to
mm,
do that, to go ahead with this because things my end are not very good. So if you
mm.
don't chase them, then you wouldn't know what is going on. You will start blaming yourself. But
Yeah.
problems work both sides. Sometimes people have their own issues. So
Mm,
it's good to actually communicate and basically making sure that everyone is okay and you connect with their feelings and being able to hear them. Like Carol, I don't know whether it was a few weeks ago, we're talking about a different subject. I don't know what topic was it where you mentioned that sometimes you work with people and whatever you do is never enough. They always find something, some fault and stuff. That means there's basically somebody, they need to do the training of communications and the training of connecting with people and basically having gratitude and appreciate someone is very,
mm.
very important.
Yeah.
Over to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, it is important to be able to ask those questions because, and I love what you were saying just then, because if you don't ask the questions that need to be asked, it festers inside. And when it festers inside, that's when it's at the vibration between you doesn't work either. So there's there's other communication going on that will go on in a non-verbal way. But those thoughts just fester away and they get bigger. And that can create problems because then you'll find yourself making snide remarks, snipey remarks that don't serve anything and actually create more problems. So being direct and just ask the question. And it is about asking the person that it relates to, the person that can answer the question. It's not about going to other people and gossiping and chewing it over with them, because that can't help either. It can help you for a little while, but it doesn't answer your main point. Only the person that is involved can actually answer the question. So being direct, and it is being comfortable about being direct and ask those questions without judgment, without blame. There's a way of doing it. And I know that for me, I realized my mum was never very good at asking or being direct. She would go round the houses, around and around. And it's not something that I was aware of, because you live with it. So it becomes your norm. And it wasn't until I was doing some assisting with a company called Landmark. And one of the people I was assisting with, we were having a conversation. And he just said, "Oh, just be direct with me. Just be direct." And I'm going, I didn't know how to be direct. It was like, because he said, "You're going round the houses." And I go, but that for me was how I'd been brought up, because you learn from your parents, you learn from your environment. And so for me, my mum used to go around the houses. So for me, that's what you did. You never really got to the point. You know, you'd hedge around it, but never really get to it. And when this person said to me, "Oh, just be direct," I just thought, oh, there's something here for me to work on. So I've been working on that. It's taken quite a few years, but I can be a bit more direct than I used to be. I'm aware now of when I do tempt to go around the houses and go, "Oh, no, come on, let's ask the question, say what's here to be said, stop hedging round and round." So it's really being clear on what is it you want to communicate, and just be direct. But also being aware, does that person appreciate direct talking? If that person is someone that likes to go round the houses, maybe you do need to go round the houses, but lead them to the point. You know, so you still get to the point, but in that sort of roundabout way. So again, it is understanding who you are talking to, and being able to do both there, but certainly get to the point at some point. You know, do get to the point. And so there was something else I loved what you said about with your children, getting them to say, "But Mum, you're not listening." And it is allowing someone else to say that, especially your children, and being comfortable with being challenged.
Yep.
You know, get comfortable with it and be able to be with that challenge and know that it's not personal. They're just saying what's there for them. Even though they say you're not listening, what they're saying is, we don't feel listened to. Remember, it's not about you, it's about the other person. So stop making it about you.
Yeah.
And I love, I really acknowledge you for having that courage to say to your children, right, okay, question me, challenge me. And when they do say, "Oh, you're not listening," you make that time to understand and to listen to them, and to then follow through and really get an understanding so you can move forward. That takes courage, and it takes commitment to actually being with that person and making things work, rather than it's my way or the highway. It's like, no, this is how it's going to be. I'm not listening to you. This is what I'm saying. That so doesn't work. So yeah, it's not healthy, and it sets up a precedent for the other person of feeling they're not worthy of being listened to.
Yeah.
So your children are getting that experience of feeling, well, actually, I'm worth somebody to be listened to. I'm
Yeah.
worthy of being listened to, of standing my ground and saying, "Excuse me, I'd like to be listened to." And there are ways of being able to do that. So yes, welcome and embrace being the challenge, put it out there, and notice when it maybe pushes some buttons in you, and
Yeah.
deal with that, because it's your stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So totally love that. Totally love that. What I was getting on to, yeah, get to the point. There was something I was going to. I think I've gone there. There was something that took my eye. Oh, that's right. Yes. If you're listening to somebody, it's okay to take notes,
Yeah.
because that way you're more likely to remember. You know, it's not a case of so you're not listening to them, but just odd notes, and actually say to them, well, look, it helps me if I make notes about what you're saying, because then I make sure that I get it right. And then you just check back with them and say, well, look, this is what I heard you to say. This is what I've written. Is that what you said? So that they again can then feel heard and listened to. And
Yeah.
they can then come back and say, well, no, that's not actually what I said. And then you can change it, because then you've got that. There's no mistake. There's no miscommunication happening. And so when you actually come back to them another time, you're not going to make a mistake.
Yeah.
You're going to be really clear what was said before. You know that person's communication, and you can move forward. So don't be afraid of taking notes, making notes. And I certainly find it useful, because sometimes I can't hold everything in my head. I'm listening, and for me, just to jot a note down helps me to retain it. Helps me to just glance back and go, oh yes, that was something they said, because then I can be with the rest of the conversation that's happening. I'm not trying to hold on to it and think, oh, I've got to remember that to say that, because then you're not listening. You're not fully engaged in in what's being said to you. So certainly just jot a note down, and just ask someone just to, oh, hang on a second, I just want to get that down. Don't be frightened, just to put a little pause in there, so that they get that you are listening to them.
Yeah.
You do want to know what they're saying. So again, that's another way you can improve your communication. And also feed back to somebody. Say to them, well, this is what I heard you to say, and use the words that you heard them say back to them, so that they can get an opportunity to say, well, no, that's not what I said.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you may just twist something in your mind. You think you've heard them say something, but actually they didn't use that word. You may have substituted a word yourself, or you might have just twisted the meaning slightly. So it's always good to say, well, look, this is what I heard you to say, rather than this is what you said, because that immediately sets up that barrier, especially if they didn't say that. It keeps that flow, that dance in the conversation, because you're taking onus on, this is what I heard you to say. It's not saying, this is what you said, it's, this is what I heard you to say. And they got the opportunity to then say, well, yes, that's right. Or, well, no, that's not quite what I said. Or, no, that's not quite what I meant. Sometimes they'll come back and say, well, no, that's not what I meant. And you can say, well, okay, so what did you mean? You've heard what they said, you've questioned, and you've allowed them that time to think and come back again. So it is a dance. It's a beautiful dance. And I love dancing. So when I started realizing conversation and communication is a dance, I started thinking, oh, okay, let's find the steps of this dance. How can we dance? Because I love dancing. So for me, that metaphor, I love it. I really love it. rather than you sort of tussling with one another. No, I'm doing this. They're going that way, you're going like this. It's like this invitation to just dance. One leads, the other follows. The other
Yeah,
leads, you follow. And yeah, it's beautiful. It really is beautiful. So again, it's that listening. It's getting in the other person's world. Um, take those notes if you feel that that works for you. And allow for a pause, because that's something that I find quite frustrating at times, is that sometimes I just need to pause, to think, just to settle, to breathe, and someone will just jump in and grab the conversation, and it's like I can't breathe.
yeah,
um, allow those pauses. And I know in particular autistic people they can take time. People who've got dyslexia, again, find words difficult to get hold of.
yeah.
They need that time. Give them that time. Be present to them needing that pause, that moment, just to get their thoughts, get the words out. And you'll find the conversation will then continue to
Flow.
flow.
Yeah,
So yes, certainly a pause is important. And I find that somebody that just and actually I put a breath in there. Sometimes there are some people I've listened to, I can't hear the breath. I'm like, I'm holding my breath because I like, where are you breathing? They're just, but somewhere in there they must have taken a breath. I couldn't hear it. So again, recognize, are you talking very quickly without a breath? Take a breath, take a pause, slow down just a bit, and give someone else that opportunity to catch up with you. Someone that maybe their own processing, their brain processing speed is not as quick as yours,
yeah,
because that can be quite um, exhausting for somebody who struggles to follow at that speed, you know. So yeah, there's there's a lot there about communication.
yeah. There is. I love it when you use dance as a communication, like as an example of communication. Because if let's say you're doing tango and the other person is not responding how they should respond, then that means the steps you're just gonna go and fall down. So it's just having someone like responding to the music. And I love that, Carol Ann, because it basically shows that the other person is listening and they're responding to you, and it also avoids the conflict, like what you were saying, and be direct. And you were saying that your mom wasn't direct. For me, basically, I grew up with parents. My dad is bonkers, my mom is bonkers. They are very, very direct people, and when they speak, even my step parents, they're very, very direct. And there is no gossip. If you are looking for gossip from my mom, you're not gonna get it. My mom would just says it straight away. And even she used to tell my aunties off, and they'll be like coming home and they've got these problems with their husband. Then they'll be like, "You are the one that is problem. Just stop this, and then everything will be okay." And they'll be like, "But you're meant to be on my side." And she'll be like, "I'm your sister. If I don't tell you the truth, no one is going to tell you the truth. Just be like this, and everything else you will avoid it, and they will be having it each other." And the other day on last Saturday, I was talking to one of the girls. she was having problems with her spouse. So they're in a marriage counseling. She said they stopped the wedding and stuff. And her husband is a very, very good looking guy. Her spouse is a very, very good looking guy. And she's a very, very good looking girl. And so I said to her, what's the story between you two? And she was like, it's complicated. Basically, right now we are attending a marriage counseling in church, and it's actually very fascinating because we are calling each other out the truth. We are basically we are fixing of where we should be, because when we were together there was too much arguments and too much this. Now we are, when we are doing counseling together, you're able to recognize your mistakes and also calling yourself out and calling the other person out. So, and I just laughed and I was like, I love this. Sometimes it's nice to be honest, because sometimes we
Mm.
might um, make mistakes and then we start blaming our mistakes to somebody else and not realizing that we're making mistakes. So sometimes it's nice when you learn to communicate. It means you can communicate with yourself and check yourself out and check people around you if you are in the right tribe as well, because if you always have a conflict with someone, that means that there is a problem. So you be able to be surround yourself with people that get you as well, and that get your company culture, your company values as well. It's very, very, very important, instead of serving people for the sake of serving them. So it's very, very important to actually uh, have a clarification of everything around you, like and connect with people properly. Like what you were saying, basically saying communication is like dancing. If we were all think about communication as dancing, and we'll be connected to our clients properly, we'll be serving our clients, they will be coming back, and we wouldn't have to spend money on Google advertising, spending thousands and thousands of pounds. People would be like, bringing people to us because they're like, wow, the service that I'm getting, it'll be amazing. So it's good to communicate. It's really,
Mm.
really good. And also when you see that there's an issue, raise it up. Don't basically assume that the other person can basically be a psychic or be a prophecy and say there is a problem. If you see a problem, raise up and avoid conflict and just be straightforward, like what you were saying, that be truthful is very, very important. For me, basically, I was raised by my parents who are very, very, they are upfront. What you see with them is what you get. It's like my mom. If I ask her to do something, if she's busy, she's not gonna start telling me sob stories. She tell me that I'm busy, or if I wanted to do something, she would just tell me the process, what needs to be done. And the process might not be the process that I like, but I just basically have to trust that
Mm.
process. So it's very, very important to actually uh, connect with people and understand their feelings and their thoughts and their world, because what they think, we might think that is not important, but it is important to them. So it's nice to get to someone is basically heard and see what they're thinking, and that's where you
Mm.
need a little bit of psychology in everything you do, and
Yeah,
uh, and just see
that's.
where life takes you,
Mm.
and build a good relationship. It's very, very good to build a good relationship without judging people. You meet people, there's some people who are really, really judgmental. Some people are really, really judgmental. So It's the world that you're gonna have to recognize, and it's the world that you're gonna have to, as a person, and not to do it. For me, basically, the people that are really bad in communication, they're the ones that are teaching me something. I'm like, I don't want to be like this. So I end up reading books, and I end up taking courses to basically upgrade my skills, because I want to be able to serve my clients, and even at home to be a good mother and a better spouse by communicating my needs and listening to everyone's needs. And also at the same time, I always tell people that don't expect me to be perfect, because I'm a human being. And I always tell my children that
Mm,
just because I'm your mom, it doesn't mean when you're older. Because when I look at people, I ask them, why do you do things? They're like, it's because of my parents, because of this, or I am this because of this. So I make it clear to my children that when you are older, don't you start blaming me and saying I'm this because of my parents. I am doing my best, whatever I can. So when you are older, or right now, you're going to start basically working on your true identity and be the person that you want to be, not saying I am this because my parents divorced. I'm like, my divorce has nothing to do with how your life should be. So I'm like, you have a voice. When it comes to your life, you communicate how you want your life to be. So I always make it clear to my
mm,
children that communicate your life. When you're older,
yeah,
make sure that you live your life. Don't say it was because of my mom or because of my dad.
mm. That's right. Take control, take responsibility for your own life,
Yeah,
and not blaming others. Absolutely, yes. And I loved what you said about doing, the dance, and you
yeah.
said yes, you're doing a tango, and I immediately thought, yeah, if somebody's doing a tango and you're trying to do a waltz, it doesn't work, does it?
No,
So you
no.
need to learn, understand the dance that the other person is
Yeah,
doing, or teach them the steps of your dance,
yeah,
you know, and be clear. No, this is the dance that I'm doing, and
yeah,
teach them the steps. And it is understanding the person that you're speaking with, having a full grasp of who you're talking to
yeah,
and what their perspective is. Because sometimes it's knowing that they might have no idea what you're talking about. It may not even be part of their world. So if you're using jargon speak,
yeah,
that only someone that's trained in the field that you're trained in understands, the other person's never going to understand. So it's being able to understand, well, who is this person I'm talking to? What's their learning? What's their background? What's their perspective on life? And something that Judge Bernard Shaw says, which I just totally love, I can totally get. The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place.
yeah,
And I know that I'm very good. I have a picture in my head, and I thought I'd communicated, was there to be communicated, but realized that I hadn't. I hadn't given the full picture. I'd only done snippets. So the full communication hadn't taken place at all. They hadn't really understood. It was all in my head. I thought I had. So again, this is where clarifying things, asking questions, or even there's a great technique that, again, we used at Landmark, because when we were given instructions from the course leaders, I was a course leader support.
yeah,
And so when the course leader gave instructions, something that was great was to actually repeat back to them what you'd heard them say. Or you ask someone to say, right, repeat back to me what I've just said, so that you then know that the full communication has taken place.
yeah,
It's not a waste of time. It's actually saves time in the long run, because then you know communication has taken place, it's clear, and you know where you stand, they know where they stand. It really is quite a great technique to have, and it doesn't lead for them miscommunication. Oh, well, I thought you meant this.
Yeah.
Well, no, I didn't mean that. This is what I said. This is what I meant. You know, because sometimes people can go, well, I thought you meant this. They go off in their own little world because they have their own perspective on life. And so, yeah, getting clear and asking someone to repeat back to you what your message was, or you saying, well, can I just repeat this back to you, just so that I make sure this is clear what you said. Take charge of your life and of your communication. As you were saying, Nomsa, you know, it's about you taking charge.
Yeah.
And what I'd like to leave people with is a quote by Anthony Robbins, because I think this sums up really what we've been saying. To effectively communicate, we must realize that we are all different in the way we perceive the world, and use this understanding as a guide to our communication with others.
Thank you
So,
so much.
yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Carol. And yes, I basically agree with you. And I'm just going to say the same thing as well, that as long as you understand that we are all different and we all have different values and different beliefs, we can all stay connected as long as we can understand each other, that everyone in life has their own values, has their own beliefs. And just because I have certain beliefs, it doesn't mean that you have to believe in what I believe. But I can listen to your beliefs and see if I can help you and help you to get to where you need to be. And when it comes to business and your personal life, I'm afraid it is gonna be have to be you that has to find that voice by basically connecting to coaches. You can connect with our coaches at Ngosi Talk Shows and lead from within, because you want to be a leader in your own life. You want to have a voice in your own life. If you don't have a voice, then that means you can't move forward with your life. So if you are looking for someone, a writing facilitator, Carol Ann, she's here. Get in touch with her and stay connected with her. She's doing a writing retreat. She does a writing retreat every now and then. I think the next one is in June, right? Or July?
You're talking about my challenge.
Yeah, writing
Yeah,
challenge.
writing challenge is in July.
Oh, yes.
You just check. Yeah, it's first. Yeah, the first week of July starts the 4th of July. So yeah,
Okay, yes, you can get in
yes,
touch with her, stay
my
connected with
challenge.
her. And she does retreats as well. I think her
Yeah.
retreat will be later this year. And
Hmm.
just be your own leader in your own life and learn to communicate and learn to be the person that you want to be. And we are here at Nkosi Talk Shows Monday to Friday, 1 p.m. UK time. And YouTube subscribers, family, please subscribe to our channel. And God bless and live with grace.
Bye.